Independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Australia, and welcome to my weekly online class to go. So for those who are new either to my Facebook page or my YouTube channel, first of all, welcome. Thank you for joining me. My online class to go is a weekly class that I do. So each Tuesday night I do a live video. We make 3 cards, and if you place an order in my online store before the end of Saturday night of $75 or more before shipping and after Stampin' Rewards redemption, then I'll send you the kits to make 2 each of the 3 cards from tonight's class. So you get all the cardstock, designer series paper, any ribbon or twine that is needed. You will need the stamp and die set or something similar. Any dies that are from the featured bundle I don't include. I include the cardstock or designer series paper if that's what's used, but not the actual die cuts themselves, because if you happen to be using a different stamp set, then it doesn't really work if you've got a die for a completely different image. So this week's featured bundle is Nature Symphony, which is part of the Nature Walk suite from the current mini catalogue. And I'll just switch my camera around. So these are the cards for tonight, and this is the stamp set. So you've got a couple of leaf images, some sort of background texture images, and then the sentiments, and then the dies. So I'll take these out because they're a lot bigger than the images look on the front. So you have the dies to cut out the 2 leaf images, and then you've got an extra 1 or 2 extras that can be used solo, so you don't need to stamp, and then some background and textured die cuts as well. Alrighty, let's get started. I'll just get these out of the way. So we'll start with this one. So this one is Pretty Peacock card base, and then let me pull out all my pieces, and I have used adhesive sheets for the die cuts. It makes it a lot easier. It's not as bad without them as with the really fine detailed images where you've got lots of really thin lines, but it still does make it much quicker and easier. And for once I actually remembered to use my adhesive sheets. Alright, so basic white for the insert, some of the Nature Walk designer series paper, some more Pretty Peacock which I've embossed with the Gathering Leaves embossing folder. So any embossed cardstock is also included, so you don't need to have the embossing folder. I will emboss that for you. And I've die cut the large leaf image, and I've got the adhesive sheets on the back ready to go. And I should, but I think I've missed, I should have a scrap of white for the sentiment, but that's disappeared. It's alright, I've got plenty of scraps lying around. I'm sure I can find something that can be used. Looks like it's going to be about the right size. Let's put that to the side so I'm not scrambling around for it later. Alright, now this one you could either cut a smaller piece of designer series paper and then add or join the 2 pieces together, or have slide overlap. I decided for this one just to go the full size. It was easier and quicker. So we will adhere that, and then we're going to put some ribbon over the top. So we just want this right up on the edge. And the advantage of the liquid glue is that you do get that bit of extra time to adjust, and it's also really good for adhering embossed pieces. It just gets into all the little nooks and crannies and adheres much better. All right, now the ribbon I'm using is the bordered open weave Secret Sea ribbon, and don't know how well you can see on camera, but it's quite sheer. So normally when adhering ribbon, I like to use tear and tape. It's quick and easy and it works really well, but I don't really want to use it on this one, and it might be okay given it's over fairly dark cardstock, but the problem with using something like that on any adhesive really, on anything sheer like this, is that you tend to be able to see it through, which is not ideal. So what I'm going to do is basically the same as what I do with vellum. And one thing to bear in mind though is you want to be really thin, because this is quite sheer, and if you have any of this ribbon you'll be able to see that you can see all the little holes, and adhesive can go through, or at least you can feel it a bit. So you want to be pretty sparing with your adhesive, and those who have been watching my videos for a while know that I tend to not be sparing with adhesive. I like things to be well and truly stuck down, but with this one, you don't want that. If you're doing this with something and you've got another image, cardstock, whatever, that is going to be covering part of where the ribbon is, then that's a really good spot to try and focus your adhesive, because it doesn't matter if you're going to be able to feel any of it through it, see it, it's going to be covered. Not really the case with this one, because most of it is uncovered. So silicone matte, sponge dauber, and we want to go really thin. So you don't want to be able to see any white. You just want enough that it's got a bit of tack, and if you put some down and you find that you put a bit too much and you can see the white, just spread it out. It will be fine. So we just want to make sure that we've got enough that it's going to help stick, and I need to tidy that up. So you can see I did have too much and you could see the white, but you just spread it out and it's all good. A little tip, if you haven't done this before, with the sponge dauber, make sure you keep that sponge dauber just for adhesive. Don't go using it on your ink pads. Keep it just for adhesive. So then we can put that down. So remember, it's not going to be super sticky, but it should be enough. And then we will grab some tear and tape for the back, and hopefully it will all be good. All right, let's see how that's, yeah, so that's fine. It's not, it's not gonna, nothing is going to stick to that. It helps keep it still, but you can't feel the adhesive through, so that is good. That's what we want. All right, so we can adhere this one down now, and I'll just take these backings off because we may as well use the other side of the adhesive. We've got it, why not? Alrighty, so this is a nice quick and easy card. And get that one down. There we go, all good. And then we will add, so we want the leaf image a little up from the bottom, going over the join onto the embossed side, and then up towards the top there. So, and that one of the other advantages of the adhesive sheets is that it's really easy if you need to adjust, and particularly for a large image like this where you've got bits and pieces that kind of want to go everywhere. If you decide it's not quite in the right spot and you want to move some or all of it, you can. So we can just pick that up, bring it back over a bit, or up or down, and so you can play around with it, move it around as much or as little as you need to. So I think that's pretty good. No, I'm going to move it over slightly. It's a bit too far over to the right, at least for my liking. And this one can be a bit, it likes to move around and doesn't always cooperate as much as I would like, but you do have, it does mean you've got flexibility in where it goes and how it sits, which is a good thing. All right, there we go. Hi Renee, how are you? Nice to see you. Now, where did I, there it is. So, sentiment, Pretty Peacock. So I'm just using the little thank you sentiment. I'm going to go in a bit because I need to punch, and I haven't checked. No, I don't like that. Let's try again. That's better. Press down a little bit too hard on one side. Oop. All right, so I'm using the I've got triple banner punch. It's actually 3 banner punch, but I think it's the triple banner. So I'm using the middle one, but I may shorten it, and I think I may have done that in my original one. So you can leave it as is, but if you want to shorten it, you actually want the bottom one. And so if you decide it's a bit too long, bring it in to the bottom one and just shorten it. So it looks, when you're looking at it, you think, oh yeah, I want that top one because that's the shape that I want. If you're bringing it in from the side, you want this bottom one. All right, I think I'm going to leave it just because, and we will pop that up on dimensionals. And I'm just going to put that so it's just over the bottom of the stem. And when I find it, I had it out, there it is, right in front of me, as it always is. The Old Olive and Early Espresso not Baker's Twine linen thread. Which is now on the last chance list, so if you were wanting some of that, I would get it sooner rather than later. I'm very disappointed that it's gone on the last chance list because it's a really useful Baker's Twine. I originally didn't get it. I kind of just thought, no, don't need that one, it's all good, and then I ended up deciding I needed it for one particular project, and I have used it so much, both colours, so I'm a little disappointed that it's going, but I've got good use out of it. I don't have much left. Alright, so I'm going with the double bow just because it makes it a little easier to hide all of the glue dot, even though we'll roll it up a bit so it's covered, and we'll just trim that in a bit off and even up those ones. Alright. So I'll just roll up the glue dot, whack it behind the thread, and we will pop that down. Hi Dimity, how are you? Alright, then all that we need is, so these are the faux bronze pentagons. One thing to note with these, particularly if you're going to be using them on anything that you're going to be posting, is that they are quite heavy. They're similar in weight to the, I can't remember what they're called, I've got them hiding, but there were some, oh here they are, the pressed flower motifs, very similar weight wise, so these are noticeably heavier than most of the other embellishments, and obviously if you're just using a couple, it's it's not as obvious as when you pick up the entire pack, but they are a little bit heavier, so just be mindful of that if you're posting. Alright, and then we just need to add the insert. And there we go. There is the first one done. So that's a nice, quick and easy one. And come to the second one, which is this one. So this is a crumb cake card base. And then once I find my pack. Got some basic white for the inside. I seem to have more of that than I need, but that's all right. Tip everything out. So got a couple of pieces of the designer series paper, some crumb cake just to stamp the sentiment, the one of, actually I've got one in a bit, you actually only need, or you can get away with one of the leaf images, although I think you kind of need, no, you actually sort of do need two, actually, because you need a little bit more, but the bit that you cut off you can use, although let me just double check that. No, yeah, you do. That's right. You can get away with 3 across 2 cards, so you don't need the whole thing, so you can cut the end off, and then you can get away with having less. But anyway, that's my second piece. I will be including 2 in the kits regardless, so you can decide how you want to put it together, how much of each you want showing. There will be 2 in your kits. Sorry, 2 for each card, not 2 in total. Just make that clear because I'm confusing myself now. All right, so the crumb cake cardstock, and we want the textured, textured background image, and some crumb cake cardstock. Cardstock. I've just said cardstock. Ink. Nope, not that one. Where is it? Crumb cake. I'll get my words right eventually. Maybe. All right, so we're going to stamp off with the crumb cake, and we're just kind of randomly, and I'm just going to check that that's inking up properly. Yes. Just going to randomly stamp over your image, not too, doesn't matter too much, you know, where and how much, just wherever you feel like. And change the orientation as you go of the image, just so it's, just gonna get some of that extra ink off. Oh, you want a little bit down the bottom here, and I think that's probably enough. Oh, don't do that. All right, that should be fine. Doesn't have to be exact. All right, and then we will adhere that to the old olive. And then we can adhere that one to the card base. to adhere the small strip to the bigger piece first. Get that as close to centered as I can. So just adjust that slightly. Good thing with this one is you can use the lines on the paper to help get it straight, and then we will adhere that across the middle. That one up, there we go. All right, then we are just going to adhere these. So depending on how much of each you want showing, work out exactly where you want them, and just make sure, ideally you want your sentiment, which we'll do in a sec, to cover wherever the joins are. So depending on where, like if you're using a different sentiment, different size, and exactly where you want everything to go, you may want to cut this one down a bit so that you're, it's not going to be sort of sticking out the bottom. So before we stick that down, we will stamp the sentiment, and I'm just using Memento Black, and I've just got my little scrap of crumb cake. And we'll just fussy cut that one. So if you don't want a fussy cut, you can always just, pick a die that works, or a punch that fits. Don't have to fussy cut. Oops, going a little bit closer than I wanted there, but yeah, it'll be fine. Just tidy up that little edge there. So that is that, what it was, and I'm just going to tidy up this bit. That's better. All right, so I want this one roughly sort of mostly in this middle strip. So I want to cut some of this piece off. So I'll probably just, don't need to trim too much. I think just can probably get away with just the bottom of it actually. Let's see how that's going to look. That's going to sit down there, and if that's going there, I think that will work. All right, so get the backing off. And I've just realised that the reason I was saying earlier that you only need one and then thought, oh no, actually no, it doesn't work, is because this is not the full image. It's the one that we used in the previous card. So it has that second offshoot, which is why you only need one per card. Completely forgot. Sort of looking at that, thinking that that's one. And they're like, no, that doesn't work. Why was I saying that you only need one? That's not going to work. But it does, because that's not the full image. It's been a long week and it's only Tuesday. Alrighty, let's get that one down. That's going to sit about there. And I think that's all good. Let's just double check. Yep, that's all good. And let's bring those dimensionals back in. I just need my little ones. And let's just get one in the middle there. Alright. So pop that in the middle. Straighten it up a bit. Press everything down and bring back the old olive linen thread. Don't need quite that much, so I'm going to do the double bow again. That is going to be plenty. I don't need quite that much. That's close enough. And I've just moved it. Let's straighten that back up, or even it up. It's twine, it's not really straight. Okay. Better. Get that. Make that one a bit bigger. There we go. Trim the ends. That should be enough. And glue dot. Roll it up. And that's going in behind. And put that down, and then I've got these same embellishments as the previous card. Come on, where have you gone? Doesn't want to come off. Off you come. There we go. And we should add the insert. Where's it gone? It was, I have, oh, there it is. Hiding. Just make sure I've actually got the right size. Not sure if I've got a spare one just because I accidentally grabbed too many, or if it was a different size and for something completely different. Alrighty, and there is the second one, so another pretty quick and easy card. Okay, on to the final one. So I'm bringing this one back in. So this one is Mossy Meadow for the base, and this paper here is the textured specialty paper, and we are going to stamp on it, so you will most likely find that when you stamp, and I don't know if you can see it, you know, you're not going to get a perfect image, but that's fine. That, you know, it's kind of what we want, and also a lot of the image is going to be covered with the die cut, so if you find that there's a particular spot that you really don't like because it just has not stamped well at all, just use the placement of your die cuts to cover that up. So we have textured notes, Mossy Meadow die cut. Textured notes are on the last chance list. Very sad to see that, because these are really, really useful dies. If you have them on your wish list and haven't got around to getting them, do it sooner rather than later. They are last chance. I suspect they will go very quickly. So the textured specialty paper, and then for the die cuts, and some Mossy Meadow and basic white for the insert. For the die cuts, one of them I've done with Old Olive two-tone, and if you don't have Old Olive, either two-tone or regular cardstock to die cut from for this one, if you do have the Mossy Meadow two-tone, the lighter side of that is very close. So if you've got the Mossy Meadow but not the Old Olive, and you've got the Mossy Meadow in two-tone, use that one, use the lighter side, it's very close. And then this one, and I don't know how well you can see on camera, but this one I've actually die cut from the DSP. So it's one of the patterns where, you know, it's sort of it's very similar colouring, there's just a bit of gradient throughout. I've die cut that one from the paper, and of course I've added adhesive sheets to this one, and this one I don't need adhesive sheets for. What a surprise. But that was something I sort of realised later when I was putting it together, that I actually wanted this one popped up on dimensional, so it doesn't really matter, but you only need adhesive sheets for the bottom one. Alright, and then some Mossy Meadow for the sentiment, which we will heat emboss, and I'm going to adhere this one now, just so it's out of the way. And for a minute there I thought I was adding the glue to the wrong side. Wouldn't be the first time, but it's all good. So get that one down just so that it's fewer pieces lying around getting lost. Alright, so let's stamp. So I'm using the large image, the leaf branch one, and I just need to have a look at my sample to remember that's right. So we're going to come in from the corner and sort of going to angle, and obviously it doesn't matter too much, but it's going to sort of be like that sort of top part, the top leaf on the sort of leftmost side is sort of going up towards the top, but obviously you can do it however you want. That's just how I ended up going with it. So if you're trying to recreate and want, you know, something similar, that's where I'm aiming for, at least. And so we'll just ink this up. You want to make sure it's well inked up because we're using textured cardstock. You want to make sure your stamp is well inked up so you can get the best possible coverage. Alright, that should be enough, hopefully. We shall see. And hopefully I can actually get it roughly where I said I wanted it. So coming in from the corner there, that's probably, I'm just using my sample as a guide and trying to remember exactly how I wanted it. I think that is probably, yeah, I think that's close enough. Let's go with that. And make sure you press down firmly with this one so that you do get as good coverage as you can, because it is textured cardstock. You need to be extra firm to get good coverage, and we will see. Let's see how well this has turned out. That's not too bad. And I'll just clean up the excess. So you can see, you know, it's not as well, not as much coverage in the middle. I also didn't press down as much there. I did more so on the outside where I've got better coverage, and I'm not too fussed about the middle because a lot of that will be covered anyway. So let's adhere this to the die cut. Oops, spread that out. That was a bit more than I expected. Let's just spread that out a bit. I'm going to add a decent amount. I mean, I know I always add a very decent amount, but because it's the textured cardstock, you do want to have, it well adhered. All right, let's straighten that up. There we go. And then, oops. So one of these is going to go about there, and then so this one will sit flat, and then this one we will pop up and we'll move it probably about there. I'm just thinking because we also have the baker's twine, and we kind of want to cover as much. We want the stems covered as much as we can, but factoring in that this one is popped up, and we want to make sure it is moved a little. Don't want it right on top of it. It needs to be offset a bit. I reckon that will probably work. And I can't remember if I actually did the twine before or after the second image and just tucked it underneath. It probably doesn't matter too much. It comes down to what is easiest for you. when this one decides to cooperate. At least with this adhesive, it is a little more forgiving in terms of not sticking to absolutely everything, and you won't end up with adhesive all over your fingers when you try and take the backing off. So let's get that down. That one's going to sit about there. I might move that one in a sec. So you can adjust where things sit with this one, which is nice. So I'm going to adjust ever so slightly, and then I'm going to add the dimensionals, and obviously totally up to you how many you add. For this one, I wouldn't be stingy with this one, just because you've got lots of relatively small-ish pieces. They can move around a bit. You probably want a few more rather than fewer, more than less. And then I will grab some of my edge pieces and cut those up for some of the finer parts. Ideally, I want something on most, if not all, of the leaves, just so they're a bit more secure when the card is down. So it does mean you have lots of dimensional backings to take off and then clean up, but for something like this, for me at least, it's preferable. Other images, although I prefer to have plenty of dimensionals to keep it secure, you can get away with less. But for something like this, I would go with a few extras. All right, then I want, using the very vanilla Baker's twine from the Essentials pack, and we're going to wrap it around a couple of times, and I don't have a lot of this one left. So I'm thinking, let's see, I'm just deciding whether I add the image, the die cut now or after. I can't remember what I did originally. I might do it first, I think. It just means that I can, makes it a bit easier to make sure I've got the twine in the right spot. And so yes, you do have all the fun of removing 500 dimensional backings, adding to the pile on the floor that the dog likes to go and roll in. And then you find them in all weird and wonderful places before you clean them up. You just need to be probably a bit more careful with this one as opposed to the adhesive sheets, just because the dimensionals do stick to you a bit more than the adhesive sheet, so you just want to be a bit more careful when removing them. Alright, so let's go. So we want to make sure that it's not just straight over the top of the first one, at least as much as possible, which can be easier said than done, but let's see how we go. And you've still got the ability to move stuff around, which is very handy with these dies. So I think that will do. And then we will add so we want to wrap it around a couple of times, and oh, I've already got a knot there. Let's undo that. And I may end up just destroying this in the process and have to cut it off anyway, but let's see. That'll do. That end bit's going to get cut off regardless, so no need to spend any more time on that, I think. Alright, so let's straighten these up. That should be long enough. So that's good enough. I will just straighten this up a little bit, and then we will flip it over so we can adhere it at the back at least, so then it's secure. It just makes it a little bit easier to tie the bow when there's a little less movement. Oh, that was a bit smaller than I expected, but and it's decided to just stick to my finger. Let's try that again. That's better. Alrighty. And you can wrap this around 2 or 3 times depending on your preference and also how much twine you have. I think I may have done 3 on my sample card, but 2 is plenty. And we'll just straighten this one out. There we go. Trim off the ends. Alright, now we can add that to the card front, so that's going to sit about there, and we may as well take those backings off, use the tape. down. Okay, and then we need to do the sentiment. So the sentiment is heat embossed. So I'll just move everything to the side, clean off my desk a little bit, and bring out all my embossing kit. And actually remember this time to use my embossing buddy. Unlike last week, I used it on the first one and then completely forgot for the second. So give that a good going over with your embossing buddy first. And I've just realized I will need to clean the stamp because I haven't yet, and it will end up with a little bit of mossy meadow in mixed in with the white, which probably isn't quite what we want. And make sure that's well inked up. Double check I've actually got the white, which I do, so that's all good. Tip that over. And bring my tweezers in, just because this one is quite small. And we'll just check. That's looking pretty good, I think. Don't think there's any more that needs to be cleaned off, but I will tip this back in before I make a mess. Especially as I've got the fan going, so oops. Don't want it blowing everywhere. Made enough of a mess of it just then. Deal with that later. Alrighty, and then bring in my trusty clipboard just to hold it down and help heat from both sides. And let's have a look. I think that's pretty good. Yep, that looks like it's all melted. Just be careful of the metal when taking that off, because it might be a bit hot. And then bring this back in. I'm going to flip that over. And add some dimensionals. Backing is one that's going my way, I think. That will be fine. I'm going to put this up in the top corner. There we go. And then embellishments of this one, I am using the Pearls of Beauty. And just to give this a little bit of a pop of colour, I'm using the Calypso Coral ones. Just to give it a little bit of colour. And we should add the inserts. And we'll pop that one down. Over and just always be careful when you've been embossing. You are likely to have little specks of embossing powder on your surface, so just be mindful and clean those off. Alrighty, there is the last one. So let me bring everything back in. So there we have it. These are the 3 cards for this week's class. So remember, you have until the end of Saturday night to get your orders in, and I'll get the kits out to you for 2 each of the 3 cards. And that is it for tonight. Next week's class is the Fragrant Layers bundle. So yes, that one. Yes, that's next week's one. Just trying to remember. I work a few weeks ahead, so just trying to remember which one is which. But yes, Fragrant Layers for next week, which is from it's either the current mini or the most recent online exclusives. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it is current. None of it is last chance list or anything like that. So you've got time to order. That's not going to be an issue. Thank you, Dimity. Thank you for joining. And you too, Renee. It's good to see you again. Alrighty, that is it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the cards. Thank you for joining me. If you're watching on YouTube, please remember to like and subscribe. It really helps me out and I do appreciate it. I'll be back next week, same time, same place. Until then, happy crafting. Bye.